Colorado is fresh off their bye week, but what do they need to improve on to be better and to maybe win some more games?
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? This is Locked On Buffs, brought to you by yours truly, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is also brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. That's daily fantasy sports made easy. Joining me today is the one, the only, the Colin Moor of Life and Football. Colin, thank you for joining.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me, man.
We're going to be talking about the Colorado Buffaloes and kind of everything that they've been missing and what they need, because obviously they were the hottest team in college football. They were America's team. Then they lose a couple games and it's tough, right? So Where did things go wrong? And let's just talk about the bye week first. So the bye week, as we all know, week off. They went to, I think the Sanders family went to Miami, I believe it was.
Yeah.
They were chilling. So what do you think Colorado tried to do during this bye week to kind of regain their focus or just bounce back?
I think, honestly, because when I was in college, most bye weeks, you go ahead and work on yourself. So whatever they feel they need to work on, they did. And then they might have because they worked, the game was Friday at Stanford. They had practice Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, I believe. Maybe even Wednesday, but I ain't sure. So they had all those days of practice. I believe majority of them, they worked on them. And then the back end, they focused on UCLA. So to me, you probably working on the calls, working on, okay, when somebody get hot, go ahead and you could play man, but man, you might want to play man off where you can see everything going on. Because on some of them plays that they had in that Stanford game, because I was there sitting right in the end zone watching it, I seen when 13 got hot. And when he got hot, you could tell they was going to him. So if they would have played off on that, on a couple of those plays, man, he wouldn't have been able to get those catches because they would have been able to see the ball and knock it down. But you know, it is what it is now. So I think when somebody get hot, either have safety help over the top or play off where you can see everything that's coming at you.
Yeah, I think especially as someone who covers Stanford too, like that was Alec Iomaner's best game of his career. He had never recorded more than 4 catches and he had 13. I don't think he'd surpassed 100 yards once in his career. And he was at 294, 295. And so that was a crazy game from him. I think Colorado kind of learned about how quick he was. He was clocked at I think it was like 21.2 miles per hour on that long run. So dude's quick. He can move. And so I think, and this is kind of what I've been talking about, there's 3 things Colorado need from this bye week. They need to reset. They need to avoid social media, because obviously I think a lot of people, it's easier said than done, where you're like, oh, just don't go on social media. You won't see all the negativity. These guys, they're young. They're like 18 to 24. Some of those COVID kids are like 27, but you know what I mean? They're all youngsters. They all care about what people say about them. And then 3, they need to regain their swagger. You know, remember that video where it's like, I think I got my swagger back. I think Colorado needs to get their swagger back. And so how do you think they do that during the bye week to get that swagger and effort level back?
When they work on them, and when they worked on them, that pretty much set everything up. But when you look at it, they only lost 3 games and they lost it. They didn't get beat. They lost the game. Like when 13 went off, he caught that 98-yard pass, but Cooper slipped and then he ran it. Then he caught the pass over the middle and ran that way. Then he caught the last TD. So them was just botched plays. If it weren't for the botched plays in each of those games, self-inflicted wounds, all they got to know is don't have self-inflicted wounds. You can win. They could have won all 3 games that they lost without the self-inflicted wounds. So that's what I'll be preaching. Hey, self-inflicted. We can't have the penalties, because at one point we had them like 4th and 1 billion yards to get a first down. They didn't even get the first down, but Trap and that wide receiver got into it and bam, flag, first down. So that kept the drive open. So you got to cut down on the penalties and self-inflicted wounds, and you pretty much can win every game you win.
Yeah, the penalties are a big one, because it's one thing to have a holding call or maybe like a targeting call or something where it's like those are just targeting happens. Sometimes you lower your head, it's in the heat of the moment. But like Travis Hunter, for example, there's no need. It's always the second guy that's penalized. We know
Right.
a tale as old as
And
time.
that's exactly what it was.
The second push is always penalized because that's how it's retaliation, and that's just
Yeah,
how football has always operated and will continue to operate. And then it's also and I don't remember the exact number. I think it was 4
right.
defensive substitution penalties. I
Yeah.
don't know what the record is, but I imagine Colorado now holds the record for
Probably.
most defensive substitution penalties because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they need to figure that out. I think they need to do this goes from the players to the linebackers coach, the secondaries coach, and defensive line coach. You work on the rotations. If they're yelling out nickel personnel, whatever their code word is for that, they need to make sure that those 11 guys know who's supposed to be on the field because
Right.
there shouldn't be that much confusion. I think one time it's like, okay, it happens, but that many times it's kind of crazy. And so I think that's a disciplinary thing. I think maybe, and I don't know, like we're not at practice. We don't know what Coach Prime
Yeah.
is saying outside of the well-off media video stuff, but maybe they need to go a little harder on the guys and kind of like hammer them home. What do you think about that? As someone who's been in situations where it's like
On it really
coaches.
that game right there was so different, man. I don't
Mhm,
know if you was there, but
mhm,
we blowing them out, and then I seen little plays where them boys could come up out of there and start scoring. When they started doing it, we didn't keep scoring. If we would have kept scoring, all them penalties would never even mattered because we'd have kept scoring, but we didn't. So it looked like that because they shifted stuff around so quick and they running them in and running them out. Some of them times when we got called on it, the ref wasn't even giving us a chance to technically get our guys in. So you might have one in, they got theirs in, and now we supposed to get our shift. They supposed to hold the ball before they say hike. They weren't doing that. They were saying, all right, they got theirs in, run it. Like, no, you supposed to have enough time to shift it, but they weren't giving us enough time. So that wasn't really technically all the way on us. The refs had a part in that because some of the stuff, when they'll call a flag on us, they wouldn't call a flag on them. So that game, we was not only fighting Stanford, we was also fighting them refs. So that was that. But at the end of the day, you know this coming. You might have to deal with the refs. You know you got to deal with the squad. So beat them bad enough, keep the lead long enough where you don't have to worry about that. So that's how they could address that because they working on everything at practice. That Coach Prime been doing this since high school, so none of this ain't new to him.
mhm,
None of this at all new to him.
right.
It's just when you dealing with the refs, because you got now every time we out there, they made sure Stanford got all their players in. Hold up, Shador. Nope, Shador, wait, Shador.
It's a
Go with
controversial
us.
rule.
They
It's
been
a
doing it.
controversial rule because we saw it was USC Utah, and so the rule basically is the rule basically is if the offense substitutes, the defense is then allowed to substitute.
Right.
But then if the defense chooses to substitute on their own, then that's on them. They have to figure it out because
Right.
obviously
But the
USC
only
was
time we subbed is when they subbed.
right, and so
But they was letting them hike that ball before we
yeah.
got out of there. So something wasn't even on
Utah's
us.
cracked the code. I don't know if you saw what Utah does, but
But
they do this thing where USC was subbing, and then Utah would trot off like their 400-pound defensive lineman, their nose tackle. He'd
yeah,
run onto the field and then quick or slowly jog off the field and shave off like 10 seconds because the ref's holding them. And so it's all about game management. It's all about kind of this chess match. And I think that's
right,
kind of the one thing that the Colorado coaching staff doesn't have down yet is the chess match aspects to certain things. They're great schemes, they have great adjustments, but sometimes, and I think we saw it against USC as well, they just kind of aren't, I guess, aware of like the little like games that are playing, the gamesmanship, if you will.
right,
And so I'm going to talk about there's one major thing that I think has been wrong, but I'm going to tell you about our sponsors over at LinkedIn first, because sometimes we all need our perfect hire, and LinkedIn is the perfect place to help you find them. These days, every new potential hire could feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. I use LinkedIn to get my first ever job out of college. Worked for the Pac-12 networks. It was amazing. I interviewed with the hiring manager, talked about what they needed, and I did that all through LinkedIn. So if you want to do the same and find your perfect candidate, add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you could quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, joining me is Colin Moore of Life and Football. I'm talking about what the biggest thing that's been wrong for Colorado. And Nick Saban kind of said this, and I don't want to take credit away from Nick Saban. I know he's a longtime Locked On Buffs listener. No, I'm just kidding. I wish, I'd hope.
Yeah,
But I've been talking about this, and I kind of noticed it against TCU, against Nebraska, and even Colorado State.
right.
Is Colorado? It's like they need motivation from the other team to play well, and they're very much of they're a big play dependent team, and they're a momentum dependent team. And so they took their foot off the gas pedal, and they may well have slammed the brake and pulled the emergency brake at the same time
Yeah.
because they took their foot off the gas pedal and kind of lost that killer instinct. What do you think has been wrong with them losing the killer instinct, and just in general, what do you think is something that maybe you've noticed has been going wrong?
I just think we got to play a complete game. That's
Mm,
all we got to do is play a complete game. First half, second half. We always was that second half squad.
right.
Let's go ahead and from the first rep to the last rep of the game, or technically first play to the last play.
Mhm.
Give it your all the whole time. Which they giving it, but I'm saying make it count. Like if you get 8 drives in the first half, score on 8 drives in the first half. If the defense go out there 6 times, stop them 6 times, or stop them 4 times. That keep us up and them down. So it's really just having a complete game on offense, complete game on defense, and a complete game on special teams. Because we still haven't got in the end zone on special teams yet, and we almost did versus Arizona State. So we just got to play a complete, man. Because that's all we looking for. Every game we had, even though we only played second half or first half of those games, like I said, we won 4 of them. 3 of them we could have won, but we didn't. But we was there to win them with only a half. So imagine if we would have played the halves in all the games, we'll blow everybody out. But it don't go like that. You got to play a complete game. So that's all we're missing. Play a complete game. Or if you only give that half, make sure that the game is close where you can come out on top. That's what it's gonna come out to be.
Yeah, complete game has kind of been their issue. They're like a second half team where it's like, okay, all of a sudden now it's time to turn it up. And
Yeah,
honestly, it's cool when it works. Like obviously when against the
correct.
TCU was great, Colorado State was great. They win in double overtime. And then even USC, they almost won. They had a
Right,
few time management issues. But
right,
it's cool when it works. And then when it doesn't work, it's like, guys, like you have to care about the whole game. You can't just
right,
care
right,
about
right.
the first half or whatever it may be. And so my criticism of them was, okay, they hadn't played a good first half the whole season. And
Other
then
than
and
Stanford,
then Stanford, they put up
yeah,
29 points, hold the defense holds them scoreless. And I was like, okay, Colorado is now playing their first complete football game that we've seen. And then all of a sudden, halftime, we got people advertising merch, which I know is a scheduled post, just can't have it.
yeah,
And it's like they lost their killer instinct, they lost interest. Maybe they were toying with their food a little bit. Who knows? But they need to play that complete game. And I
yeah.
think that's something that the coaches will kind of because that's a great film right there, that Stanford game. Because that first half is everything you want them to do,
Right,
and that
right.
second half is like, if we do this again, we will not win the rest of the year. So,
Correct, correct.
so what do you think is like from a player perspective? How do you get there mentally? Because obviously you go up by a lot. We've all been there in sports where it's like, okay, we're winning. Let's kind of now I'm kind of focused on what my Instagram caption is going to be or like whatever it may be. What do you think?
Well, on these last 5 games, they can't take their foot off the gas because
Right.
everybody legit. Like we legit, and the teams we facing legit. So everybody that we face got to win a record, and we got a record. Ain't no team we face in these last 5
Mhm.
got a losing record. So you automatically know probably the underdog in every game.
Right.
Now you know you got to come with it. You don't want to have that taste in your mouth that was your last win was Arizona State when you
Mhm.
can have a win right now versus UCLA. So right now, all they got to do is go in, handle business. They know they want to handle business. They ain't no player go out there and say, well, second half I'm playing. It might play out that way, but no, you go out there trying to dominate. It just may not go that way. So hopefully this game it does go that way and they dry down, score, get in there, shut the defense, shut them down, and just keep doing that till we up. And then you don't take your foot off the gas. But UCLA, and they got a good running game. They
Mhm.
ain't playing the freshman quarterback. So the veteran quarterback, I think this maybe gonna be his 3rd start. So
Mhm.
It ain't like he just been out there for years, but he been in school for a while.
Yeah.
Now he get these live bullets. They ain't faced a quarterback like our quarterback in Shador. So we got an NFL first round quarterback. They ain't played no NFL first round quarterbacks yet. So we gonna come with something they ain't never seen before. They secondary versus our wide receivers. That we can have a field day with them. Now they D line gonna come with it. It's just our O line gotta hold them off.
And
Then
that's a great point. And I want to talk about that before we dive into UCLA and the matchup in general. Like, speaking of things that have been wrong, I would say the defense is wrong right now, or they haven't played up to potential. That secondary should be a lot like better than what they have been showing, I guess you could say. It's kind of the big story. Today's Monday, and this episode's going up on Tuesday. The big story on Monday is Colorado's defense ranking as the worst defense in the country. But I think they have a skill set that's way better than that. Huh?
They got us at the worst in the country.
Statistically, yes. The total defense rating, yeah.
It's
So
mainly because that last game.
probably, yeah. Giving up 26 unanswered does not help the rankings. And then obviously not playing, you kind of just stay there, so you don't have a chance to balance it out.
Right.
But and the offensive line has also been bad. Of those two groups, I think the defense could be fixed or at least adjusted more. The offensive line is what it is. And so when we get to UCLA, that's going to be one of my bigger concerns.
Well, we get Savion Washington back, so that's going to help too.
True. What do you think the defense can kind of like? What's a small adjustment to make? Obviously, they're not going to turn into Georgia in 2 weeks. Like that's not what's going to happen. But what is an adjustment they can make?
Well, they already made some, and it was working. It's just know what's coming. If you see the slant keep coming, have somebody ready for that slant, which they probably do. It's just so much be happening in the game because Coach Pride said we call stuff is what they do. So they got to be in position. Like when I was sitting across crossing routes at Arizona State, have somebody there for them crossing routes. Stanford was running slants. Have somebody there for the slants. And then when they run them fade routes, if you gonna go one-on-one, have the safety over the top of the one that you think they might go after, whichever got the high hand, and then that could alleviate that. So it's just really being aware of what's going on. Because I'd be right there looking. I'm like, okay. When I see all the wide receivers go to one side and 13 on the other, I'm like, bro, they throwing the 13. And I was trying to tell Ward, get over the top. They coming to 13. Like I seen it. So
yeah,
I don't know if in the game how they be seeing it, but from me not having to worry about, I guess me not having to worry about me finna get caught on, I could see what's going on. So if I see it, I know they see it up top. So I know they got to be telling them it's the player actually do it. That's what I'm saying. We don't know what they are saying and what the players actually go out and do. So it's just get a whole connection, like run the play totally like it's called.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like a football learning moment for them. Obviously, when the guys ran 6 slants in a row, I don't know if it was 6, but it felt like it was 6 or more. And I would take away his inside leverage, like literally stand where he's going to run. Like, and
I'll have a linebacker just bust him as soon as he comes. And then
take that away. And then you talked about the safety help. Even if they're running slants or the fade or whatever, the safety should be, especially because they weren't throwing it to anybody else. Like it was literally like, okay, number 13's here. The football equivalent of the ISO, of a point guard throwing up the ISO is I'm going to throw it to the guy that's by himself over there. That's why all the defenders were on the other side of the field. It was to get him in one-on-one matchups. You kind of have to realize that. And so I think that was a learning moment for the defense.
Now, one thing I wish Trout would do is turn around and play that ball like he can. Like he'll turn around and play the ball at practice. If he turned around and play it in the game, he could have got a pick on that last play when they caught it on by his head like that. He could have turned around and made a play. Like it was enough time to turn around, but I don't know if he had trusted himself to turn around on it.
Yeah, I think it was a case of rust and maybe a case of a little fatigue. And I think that's kind of a question that we'll have about Travis Hunter for as long as he plays both ways is, should he be on a snap count? Should he be 50% defense or like 60% offense, 40% defense, or vice versa? And so I think that was a tough game to come back to kind of like be.
Well, it's actually a good game to come back to. It just happened to go that way.
Right.
Running the game, it had to just go that way.
Right.
If it didn't went that way, we wouldn't be saying that. But nah, I think he's still good. I think he's still gonna go both ways, just like he did. They might cut it down, but I doubt it. I just doubt they cut it. It just.
I think it should be matchup dependent. I think so. Like for instance, that one's hard to read because obviously you're up 29. So it's
Yeah.
like maybe we don't need him on offense now because we're fine. And I would just fully focus him on defense. Obviously, it depends each time. You don't expect to give up
He was
26
actually
points.
better. Well, I know you saw that, but he was better. He was making a whole lot of plays on offense.
Right, exactly.
A
It's
lot of
just
plays. Like,
I'm just saying, like, for future reference, like, against UCLA, say they're struggling on offense, but the defense is doing okay. Maybe they go out on offense and give him a little break on one drive or two drives on
yeah,
defense because he's playing every single play available. It's not
yeah,
like he's coming off for
yeah.
anything. So we're gonna talk about the UCLA game, but first, I need you guys to know about my sponsor over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks are the best thing to happen to daily fantasy. It's the most fun I've had winning up to 25 times my money this football season. You just select two or more players, pick more or less on the projected stats, and place your entry. You get to test your skills on Prize Picks this football season with the most exciting way possible to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you could turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. And what makes Prize Picks so special is the reboot policy. If a player you have in your prize picks gets injured for an NFL game or a college football top 25 matchup, you have a player rebooted. So if he goes down in the first half and does not return for the second, he could get rebooted. And Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with injury insurance. So if you want to get in on that Prize Picks action, go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that is prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. It is daily fantasy sports made easy. Okay, to conclude this episode with Colin Moore, we're going to be talking about UCLA. I went to their game against Stanford, wanted to do some in-person scouting, not kind of down the street for me. So I went up there to Palo Alto and I watched that Stanford team kind of who was hoping to build momentum off that Colorado win. And we saw exactly what makes UCLA so good. And you talked about it a little bit earlier. Dante Moore, any relation?
Nah, nah. I think he's from
Dante,
Detroit or something.
right. He is a Detroit guy, not a Florida guy. You never know. You just never
Yeah,
know. But he's a 5-star quarterback, has a huge arm, not the most mobile guy, could kind of move. But when it came to Pac-12 play, he struggled with turnovers, threw 7 interceptions in 3 games, 3 of them for a pick six. And so they went back to Ethan Garbers, the brother of former Cal quarterback Chase Garbers. And this was kind of his second hurrah. He started the season as a starter, kind of lost his job in that first game. And that was the best game I've ever seen him play of his. I think he's been in college for 3 or 4 years now. That's the most complete game I've seen him play. He was running, he was making smart throws, and made no mistakes. And so what I learned, and you could tell me what you learned from this UCLA game, is their defense, great. Their quarterback, if given the opportunity, could play well, and they do not need any help. So Stanford, and this is something Colorado needs to focus on, had 112 yards of penalties, and every time they got penalized, UCLA made a big play right after. They
yeah.
took away 2 touchdowns from Stanford, and then they scored a couple touchdowns on Stanford. So what is your UCLA kind of take?
My thing is, I know they're gonna run the ball. 33 gonna get it. They're gonna give it to 20 out the backfield, which he a tight end.
Yep.
And then they 25 gonna get it, but they really running with 33.
Yep.
But they got another running back. They didn't really play it, and that boy nice. So we know they're gonna try to run the ball. Chip Kelly want to run it, so we're gonna have to start the run. They wide receivers didn't look too high, and the quarterback he's straight. He ain't nothing. I'll be like, oh my goodness, we got somebody coming. He's straight. He is a solid quarterback. He ain't nothing out here. So he can run it and throw it. Now that's where it can get tricky because he can pull that thing, and then that's easy. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 yards. So and he can run. So it ain't like he slow or something. So that's where he get tricky at. So now you got to be able to shut the run down and have somebody just in case he take off running. So if we could stop they running with him running and the running back running, I ain't really worried about them throwing it like that. So now defense, their defense line number 11 be coming with it off the edge, and number 20 at linebacker, I believe. Them two solid and the line straight, but they haven't played a quarterback like ours. So they've been good. Their defense been good, but our offense have been real good. So we can get out there and throw that ball on their secondary, which I know we can, because we can go to number 24 and we can probably eat him, and number 6. So really, we throw that ball up, we can get there. Now they're a solid team. They ain't nothing you gotta fear. They like an Arizona State. They stay solid. All we gotta do is just handle business and don't do self-inflicted wounds, and we'll get that win versus UCLA.
Yeah, UCLA doesn't need any chances, like extra chances. Like you don't need to. You give them a turnover, you give them a penalty, they will punish you. They're a very like technical team, I guess is the
Right,
phrase I'm looking for. Like they just
right,
they play well. It's not like Oregon, like Chip Kelly's Oregon teams, where it's like they're just going to light you up on the scoreboard. They
right,
won't do that, but they will get to the quarterback. Latu has 6.5 sacks. The Murphy brothers, which is one of them that you were mentioning, they have 6.5 sacks combined. So their defense line is stellar. And I think this is where the offense line comes into play. And I think this is where the running backs come into play.
right,
Colorado has kind of shown that I don't know what it is. I kind of expected a lot from the running game this year. We're just not getting it. But at least throw Savion Wilkerson back there or Alton McCaskill back there and just have him block because these guys are going to be coming from every angle. So you may as well have someone else protecting Shadur. What do you think about that?
Well, they will, because they watched the film like how you went there. I watched it, and I know they watched it. So
Yeah.
when all us watching it, we saw the same thing. See, now that quarterback doesn't come back like out of the blue. Like we don't see him out of the blue now.
Right.
We know what he like doing. We know he'll run it. We know he'll throw it. So it ain't like we like guessing like what does he do? We seen what he do.
Mm.
So now it was a good thing he did play, so we get to see it. So now we could game for that. The DNs, they just gonna have our line gonna have to hold up, and like you say, the running back's gonna have to block him or to chip him or whatever. But they gonna have to hold. So at the end of the day, we seen what we seen. We know what's coming. We just got to be able to hold our ground. And when you do that, and we gonna throw that ball, and then Shador get it out quick too. Now sometimes they come so fast you can't get it out quick, but if they hold up, which they can, and they will, we'll be popping that thing out. So
yeah, he does. Yeah.
We can get into the game where we can take over, but it's just we gotta lock in.
Yeah, and for Colorado on defense, I think they should just load the box and make Ethan Garbers throw. Like obviously he threw against Stanford, and Stanford they have, as someone who watches them close, they have good young players. All their guys are like first time starters in the secondary. Not a single player started last year, so they have good players. But I'd rather sell out and try to stop Carson Steele, the running back, because he will literally run over you with this blonde flowing hair, looking like sunshine from Remember the Titans, and he's going to run you over, and you're just going to be sitting there like, what the hell just happened? That guy just ran me over. And so make them throw the ball. Ethan Garbers kind of took advantage of what Stanford gave him. I think Colorado, I'm more confident in their secondary than I am in their run defense. So I would just like load the box and just say Travis and Omarion, you guys need to figure it out over there because you're gonna be on islands.
Yeah. Nah, they I doubt they load the box. They gonna play it, but it's gonna be a whole basically like they've been doing. It's just we only had self-inflicted wounds on our 3 losses. Without our self-inflicted win, well, one of them we was gonna lose Oregon because they just jumped out of the gate. But 2 of our losses self-inflicted.
Right.
If we went for that, we 6-1.
Okay. So before we finish, if Colorado wins, they did blank. Fill in the blank for me. Besides the self-inflicted wounds, because we got
either play the complete game in the defense, offense, and special teams, or did the second half again and kept that first half close.
Perfect.
Like how they won the other ones.
Okay.
So they're gonna pull an Arizona State, or they gonna just pull a Nebraska, one or the other. Nebraska or Arizona State, one of them.
If Colorado loses, it happened because blank, and then no penalties because something else.
Self-inflicted because they're not gonna pull an Oregon on us. So it's self-inflicted. We done something. We called it bad. Something happened bad here, there, or there, and then they took it.
You guys hear it first from Colin Moor. Colin, tell the people what you're up to these days. I know you're a busy fella.
UCLA game. I want to be out there, but I'm not at the moment. But I still got time because what today? Tuesday. So I still got time. Anything can happen. I could be out there. But other than that, y'all can catch me at the Oregon State game.
There we go.
The Arizona game, I ain't gonna go because it's my son's birthday weekend.
Happy birthday to him.
State, I don't know if I'm going yet. And Utah, I plan on going. I got everything set for that. So yeah, that's my next checkout.
A man on the move. I actually might be there in LA this weekend. Might make the quick drive down there. And so I appreciate you guys for tuning into Locked on Buffs, and go check out Colin and his work over at Life and Ball. He's got interviews. He's got everything you need. He's got blogs and vlogs or anything that has video content. Colin's over there. He's out there in the world doing everything he does. So I appreciate
go to YouTube, Life and Football, if you want to check us out. Life. Matter of fact, you see it, Life and football, baby.
There we
Just
go.
check us out. We on YouTube. We everywhere.
Go check them out. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. You guys have a great rest of your day.